In this lesson, we're going to explore an extremely important concept when it comes to playing chord progressions, and that is the concept of voice leading. Now, what voice leading is all about is about transforming our understanding of harmony and chord progressions from thinking in just isolated and purely vertical terms, right? In terms of each chord as just an isolated vertical stack of notes, wherever that might be, and transforming that kind of thinking into thinking about how these chords relate to each other, not just in the vertical sense, but in the horizontal sense. And so as you see here, I've written both of these examples. By the way, the first without voice leading, and this one with voice leading. And I've drawn, as you see, 3 separate lines. And the way to think about these is to think of them as 3 separate voices, just like you would have voices in a singing group or voices in a choir. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the piano, and we're going to play a very simple example. We're just going to play a 1-5-1 chord progression in the key of C, and we're going to explore how these things sound and feel both without voice leading and with voice leading. And by the way, we're not just going to play, we're also going to do some solfege and work on our ear training as well as just our intellectual understanding of the music. Got it? Great. So let's go to the piano and see what we can come up with. So before we do our comparison of a 1-5-1 chord progression in the key of C, let's make sure we've got our terminology and notes right. So here's the 1 chord in the key of C, which happens to be a C major triad, which happens to be the notes C, E, and G, which happen to be the solfege syllables Do, Mi, and So. Got it? Let's put that aside. And then the 5 chord in the key of C is this. It happens to be a G major triad, which is the notes G, B, and D, which just happen to be the sound names, solfege names, So, Ti, and Re. Got it? Great. So before we play and sing, let's go ahead and talk about the logic of voice leading. And the logic is simple. It's a simple principle, and that is this. Instead of allowing the voices in adjacent chords to make big skips between each other, voice leading is the idea that notes that are close together by letter name should be played as close together as possible. Does that make sense? So instead of these big jumps, we're going to try and take the letter names in this chord, for example, that are close to the letter names in this chord, and play them as close together as possible so they don't do so much jumping around, right? So let's see what that looks like. So for example, here's our 1 chord, here's our 5. One of these notes is automatically taken care of because there's a common note to both chords, the note G, sound name So. And so guess what? When we play the C chord and then play the G chord, we can just leave this note where it is. We could just play the same note in both chords. But you see how far away these 2 guys are from these 2 guys? The logic is simple. Just look at the alphabet, right? We've got the letter C, and we got a letter B here. So where can we put this? Which is this close to? B and C, C and B in the alphabet are close together, so what we can do is take this B and move it down an octave so that it's close to its neighbor. B, C, B, C. Likewise, our letter D is close to the letter E. So let's just move it down an octave next to its neighbor. D, E, D, E. That's it. That's the logic, which does a couple of things. One, it minimizes the amount of motion it also allows you to smoothly connect, right? Instead of big movements, it allows you to connect these chords to each other with the minimum amount of fuss, right? It's that simple. It really is that simple. So, in the next section, we're going to play a little bit and do a little singing. So the first thing we're going to do is let's play. Just play without singing. Let's play and compare our arrangement without voice leading and then our arrangement with voice leading. Ready? Let's have a listen. So without voice leading. Here's the 1 chord, then the 5, and then the 1. Now let's play with the voice-led version. And ask ourselves, what about those 2 different versions is there? And if you're like me, to my ears and my sensibilities, the non-voice-led version feels a little herky-jerky and disjointed compared to the voice-led version. So let's just store that for a moment and go a little deeper in the next section. So for me, a great way to illustrate and to deeply understand what's going on here is to play and sing at the same time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to play each of these 2 renditions, and simultaneously we're going to sing each of the 3 voices. Right? So we're going to sing, there's a bottom, a middle, and a top voice. Bottom, middle, top for each one of these renditions. And well, let's just see how it sounds and feels. All right? So, just to get the notes right, the solfege right, let's remind ourselves. We're going, the bottom voice here is do, so, do. The middle is mi, ti, mi. Top is so, re, and so. And in this rendition, the bottom voice is do, ti, do. Middle is mi, re, mi, and the top voice is so, so, so. So let's go ahead and play that, see how it goes. Play and sing. So first without voice leading. So let's sing the bottom voice. Do, so, do, do, so, do. Now let's play the full chords while we sing that voice. Do, so, do. Now I'm gonna highlight that voice with my fingers here to make sure we're listening to the right thing. Ready? Do, so, do. Got it? Now let's sing the middle voice. Mi, ti, mi. Let's see if I can pull this off by playing that middle voice, highlighting it. So let's go ahead and play and sing. Mi, ti, mi. Now let's go ahead and play and sing the top voice, which is this. It's so, so, re, so. Let's see if I can highlight it here. So it's so, re, so. Now let's compare the experience of that to the voice-led version. Right? So here's our 1, 5, 1. And the bottom voice in this case is do, do. right octave. Do, ti, do. I'm actually singing it down here because I'm going to get in trouble if I try and sing this note. Do, ti, do. So here, let's go ahead and play and sing. Do, ti, do. Now let's go ahead and sing the middle voice and play. Ready? So it's mi, re, mi, mi, re, mi. Now let's play and sing the top voice. So, 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 so. So now, if you're like me, the experience is crystal clear. Do you feel and hear and feel how much smoothly, whoops, oh, come on back. How much smoother and musically flowing the connection of those voices are when we do the voice-led version versus the non-voice-led version. Right, so just keep that in mind. We're going to go deeper in the next section. So now let's go ahead and build upon what we already learned and complicate things a little bit by doing this. Instead of playing a root position C chord, let's go ahead and invert the C chord. So let's take our C turtle, C turtle, and move him up an octave. And ask ourselves, now how do we rearrange the notes in the G chord so that we satisfy the desire to do voice leading? Well, let's look, let's see. Let's see. The note G is common to both chords still, and so that guy's okay. These guys are still neighbors, right? E and D. But this guy's out there all by himself, so what do? Well, we just move him up next to his old buddy, the C turtle, right? So let's go ahead and play. Now let's continue. Let's invert the C chord yet again by moving the E turtle up an octave. And ask yourself, how do we rearrange the notes in the G chord now so that we do voice leading? Well, the G's still good. C and B are neighbors. This guy's here all by himself. Well, you just move D up to his old buddy, the E turtle. Right? And let's play. So, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but there's something super interesting about what each of the three voices does when we play each of those inversions. And it's this. Each voice, no matter which voice it is always the same. In other words, it does the exact same thing no matter what inversion of the C chord you begin with. So, for example, let's point this out. I'm just going to cut to the chase. There's a do voice, and the do voice does this. It goes do, ti, do, ti, do. I'm going to sing it an octave down. Do, ti, do. The mi voice does this. Mi, re, mi. The so voice does this. So, so, so. So let's sing the do voice. Do, ti, do. Now the mi voice. Mi, re, mi. So voice. So, so, so. Let's invert this. Mi, this is the mi voice, right? Mi, re, mi. Now sing the so voice. So, so, so. Do. Am I going to be able to sing do? Yeah, probably. Let's sing the do voice. Do, ti, do. It's inverted again. Now we got so in the bottom. So, 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 so. Do. I'm going to sing it down an octave. Do, do, ti, do. Now the mi voice. Mi, re, mi. So, the so voice always stays put. So, so, so. Do always does the same thing. Do, ti, do. Mi always does the same thing. Mi, mi. Mi, re, mi. Got it? So in closing, I hope you have a deep appreciation now for the not just the mechanics, but the artistic merit of this thing called voice leading. And I hope you also take away the critical importance of really knowing your chords. In this case, not just root position chords, but their inversions. Right? Because one, just knowing the inversions alone is going to expand the scope of your musical repertoire, but it also allows you to take full advantage of this thing called voice leading. Got it? Great.